You'll come onto your back, and if it's uncomfortable for your lower back in any way, feel free to keep the knees bent, feet flat on the floor. And you can heel toe your feet a little bit wider than hip width, let your knees knock in. If it is okay for your lower back, feel free to lengthen out through your legs today. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bend my knees, only because I do like feeling the connection of the feet into the earth. It brings a sense of ground as I do so. Now I'm going to direct you on bringing one hand at the lower abdomen and one hand around the chest of the heart. Let the elbows drop out wide, the shoulders soften. Allowing your eyes to close, and just take a moment here and adjust where you might need to so that you're even more comfortable upon your backside. Allowing the eyes to close if that's comfortable, if not, just a very soft gaze so that the gaze itself, the drishti, draws inward into the subtlety of the breath. And just observe the natural range of your breath. No effort, just ease here. Observing the inhale, that sense of expansion. And the exhale, there's a subtle contraction there, but then also a sense of softening in a way. And now I will direct you in feeling the full diaphragmatic range by just the use and subtlety of the breath. So as you inhale, I want you to think of inhaling from your chest, ribs, belly, pelvis. And as you exhale, pelvis, belly, ribs, chest. Okay, so as we inhale, we're inhaling from top to bottom. And as we exhale, bottom to top. I'm going to direct you through a few of the breaths, and then I'll start to, or allow you to move at your own pace with your own length and space with your within your diaphragm. So let's exhale everything out together. And then seal the lips on an inhale, breathe in through your chest, ribs, belly, pelvis. There's that expansion piece. And then as you exhale, pelvis, belly, ribs, chest. And inhaling, chest, ribs, belly, pelvis. Exhaling, pelvis, belly, ribs, chest. Keep going in that way for a few breaths on your own. Inhaling top to bottom. Exhaling bottom to top. We're going to keep with that full diaphragmatic breath. But now I want you to bring your hands to your rib cage. And with each inhale, again, I want you to acknowledge the sense of expansion. So you'll most likely feel your rib cage expand in all directions, but really in that sense of touch with the palms of the hands. But then as you exhale from bottom to top, I want you to feel the rib cage draw in towards itself as if it's gathering in towards the center of your being. So again, as you inhale, you're inhaling from your chest, ribs, feel those ribs expand, belly, pelvis, everything expanding. And then as you exhale, pelvis, belly, ribs, chest, feel the ribs draw in towards your midline without pressing with the palms of your hands. They're just more for physical reference and guidance here. Again, inhaling from top to bottom, expanding in that fullness. And then as you exhale, bottom to top, that subtle drawing in. We're acknowledging the subtle contraction that comes with the exhales. So keep with this for a few more breaths on your own. It might help to move the hands maybe a little bit more to the mid, to the lower ribs, those more floating ribs. See if you can feel the back of the rib cage expand into the earth, as well as the front of the ribs expand up towards the sky. And then as you exhale, it all drawing back in towards the midline. Now, as you do this, and you would like a little bit more activation, on the exhalation, as you draw the ribs in, you might start to feel the abdominal wall, also known as the transverse abdominal wall. It's a super deep layer of the abdomen, right, that runs the whole length of the body, the spine. And it almost acts like a corset as it draws in towards, again, the midline or the spine you can think of. But we're activating that deep core muscle to help bring those ribs back in. And so feel free with each exhalation, each cycle of breath on those exhalations, allow the ribs to draw further in towards themselves by igniting the transverse abdominal wall here. Feel free to do this as long as you feel necessary in order to maintain that connection, the subtle connection at the abdominal wall or the core. You're more than welcome to keep going on your own for more length and time and space. I would suggest doing this at least 10 minutes a day if you can. We're going to move on though. We're going to keep with that diaphragmatic breath, but now bring awareness into the root block or the pelvic floor. So I like to bring a block in between my inner thighs near the pubic bone. Some might like it more towards the knees. It just depends on you. You can kind of check in and see which one feels better. So your knees, your feet are about hip width distance apart. You want your feet to be fairly grounded into the floor. So feel free to lift the toes off the floor to feel the ball mound of your big toe, baby toe, and the whole heel. You can almost feel the inner arches of your feet kind of suction up. And then spread the toes into the earth. Let's just bring the arms by the sides for a moment. And I want you to hug your block or your blanket, whatever you're using at the inner thighs, slightly. And as you do, notice how the tailbone kind of lengthens towards the heels. And so almost feels like the back of your pelvis broadens into the floor, as well as your lower back, mid-back. So we're creating more length and traction in the spine. Not necessarily taking the curves out of the spine, but again, just a little bit more length and space between the vertebrae. In turn, it allows the back body to come more level into the earth. So we're going to keep the action of the inner thighs. And now let's go ahead and bring the hands back to one hand to the lower abdomen, one hand around the heart. And then come back to the full diaphragmatic breath. Again, inhaling from top to bottom. Exhaling bottom to top. And I want you to bring your mind's eye around the pelvic floor. So you can think of it as that space between your pubic bone, tailbone, and the two sit bones. You might see it as a diamond shape or square. Now, as you inhale from top to bottom, you'll notice that the pelvic floor expands out, almost like it's a balloon inflating. And then as you exhale, as you have that block in between your inner thighs and you're energetically hugging in, you'll notice there's this tone and lift of your pelvic floor. And it's very subtle, right? It's not a squeeze of the butt. It's not a squeeze of the core. Although we'll get into more activation of the abdominal wall shortly. But let the subtlety of the pelvic floor, that pulsation of the pelvic floor, the root lock, Mula Bandha, become more aware in your mind's eye. Sensing it, feeling it. Again, inhaling top to bottom. Feeling that expansion. And then as you exhale bottom to top, that kind of hugging in and drawing back up. Some like to describe it as a cone-like motion as we draw back in and up through our center. Just take a couple more breaths here, acknowledging the root lock, and then we'll add a little bit more activation up through the navel. You might see it or feel it as those 4 points beneath you kind of gathering in and drawing up. Now, the next time you exhale, I want you to energetically hug your block between your inner thighs. Lengthen your tailbone towards your heels. Feel the lower back press down as you draw your navel into the spine. Again, inhaling, kind of allowing everything to expand. And soften the grip of your inner thighs. And then as you exhale, bottom to top, that hugging in. Drawing up. And inhaling. And exhaling. A few more here on your own. Take the time on your exhales. Draw the navel in towards the earth. And as you become more familiar with the sensation at the pelvic floor, you might keep that gentle hug, that energetic hug of your inner thighs into your block or whatever you're using there the whole time. Do one more breath. Go ahead and remove your block or your blanket. Just place it to the side. Let your knees knock in. Heel toe your feet out a little bit. Just take a moment of rest here. Let it digest. If you need to bring your knees into your chest, feel free. Maybe one knee at a time or both knees. So in these practices, we're really building on top of one another, building blocks, I like to call it. So with all that we've just kind of tapped into, the diaphragmatic breath, the root lock at the pelvic floor, we're going to now add some movement with bridge dynamics. So go ahead, place your feet back to the earth. Make sure your knees, feet are hip width. Again, placing your block, your blanket, your towel in between your inner thighs. This time the arms will rest by your sides, palms facing down. Once you have the position, go ahead and root through the feet. Spread the toes. Hug your block energetically. Come back to the full diaphragmatic breath, as well as that sensation at the root lock, pelvic floor. Mula Bandha. Now in your next inhale, you're going to press down through your feet, hug your block, lift your hips up so that there's this nice long line of energy from your shoulder, hip to knee. And then as you exhale, keep hugging your block. Draw the navel in towards your spine as you gently uncoil one vertebra down at a time. Take your time as you come into the lower back as it connects into the sacrum, which is the fused bone at our pelvis. Inhale, you'll hug your block, lengthening your tailbone toward your heels, knees as you lift your hips up. And then as you exhale, hugging in, toning in, navel to spine as you gently lower down one vertebra at a time. Inhale, floating up. Now be mindful of the ribs. We don't want them to flare out. We keep them drawing in. So even as we expand with the breath, there's that gentle drawing in at the midline. Again, we're igniting the transverse abdominal wall here. We'll just do 3 more. Now arms can stay where they're at. If you would like a little bit more, on an inhale, you're going to float your arms up and over towards the crown of your head. Now again, you're not letting the rib cage flare out. And then exhale, you'll lower down. So it might not be a big movement, and that's okay. 2 more like this. Inhale. Keep the ribs drawing in. Exhaling. Feel the navel draw back into the spine, hugging your block, lowering down. Last time, inhale. Exhaling. Once you're done, place your block to the side. Again, heel toe your feet a little bit wider than your hips. Let your knees knock in. Let it rest, let it digest. We're going to move on to arm extensions. And just as we did in the bridge dynamics, what we want to be aware of is as our arms come up and overhead is that we're not letting the upper body flare. We're not letting the rib cage flare out. We're keeping the back body connected into the earth. And again, that sense of drawing in towards our midline. So again, transverse abdominal wall really working here, honing into that connection. And again, or the connection of our rib cage and the core and how they're very much related. And then we'll get into the hips, and that will be for today's practice. So as we move forward into these practices, we will add some weight to the upper limbs. But for today, we're just going to keep them as is, just our own weight of our body. Okay. So keeping the knees bent, feet flat on the floor, bring your arms overhead, shoulder, or over your body, over your chest, shoulder width, palms facing in today. Fingers can spread wide. So coming back to your full diaphragmatic breath and that root lock, the pelvic floor. On your next inhale, you're going to reach your arms over the crown of your head. Let your arms be as wide as they need to be so that your arms stay straight. Think of bringing your thumbs to the earth. And again, you're not letting your ribcage flare out. You draw them in towards your mid body. So you should feel your whole length of your spine, your back body into the earth. And then as you exhale, bring your arms back up. Inhale, reach your arms over your head. Exhale, bringing them up. And about 4 more. And you're more than welcome to keep the block at your inner thighs if that helps keep the sensation of the pelvic floor. About 3 more. Without letting the ribs flare out, bring the arms up overhead. Feel the pelvic floor expand though. And then as you exhale from your pelvic floor up, feel that sense of hugging in towards your midline, even closer. Really giving yourself that nice hug. Last 2. Rest your arms by your sides. Take a moment of breath. Now throughout this practice, again, if you would like more reps, feel free to pause at any moment in time and continue to do more on your own, okay? Now we'll bring awareness into the hip connection or the pelvic connection, and how that relates with the core, okay? So this is also a hip mobility, dynamic movement, but then again, that relationship of our core and pelvis. So arms by your sides, palms can face down for a little bit added support. We'll start on the left leg. So on your inhale, you're going to extend or slide your left leg out long in front of you, keeping your heel on the floor. You're going to externally rotate, letting your left foot fall out to the left. And then as you exhale, again, from the pelvic floor, you're drawing up. You're going to drag your heel up towards your midline. And let your left foot come back to the floor, knee point up, back to the sky, starting position. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, drawing back up. Inhale, lengthen. Externally rotate. And as you exhale, draw heel in toward your midline. Just a few more on this side. And what I want you to be aware of is the rocking that can happen. Keep the right side stable by grounding down through your right foot. And as you bring the heel back up towards your center, I want you to feel that connection of the core to the hip, as if there's a string from your navel to your left heel. And it's that invisible string that's pulling your left foot back up. Last time on this side. If you have socks on a hardwood floor, this will work very great with that. Take a moment of stillness, your back body rest. Come into the opposite side. So when you're ready, on an inhale, slide your right leg long. Glide it across the earth. Externally rotate. On the exhale, drag the heel up toward your center. Rounding down through your left side. Inhale, lengthening. Externally rotating. Exhale, drawing back in. Imagine the string connected to your navel, heel to navel. That invisible string. 4 more. Keep the ribs drawing in. You exhale, that tone and lift from the pelvic floor up to the navel center. And then let's rest in stillness. Again, let your knees knock in, heel toe your feet a little bit wider than hips. Bring your hands to your lower belly. We'll close with some full diaphragmatic breath again, just to acknowledge and reacquaint ourselves with that breath technique. And the more we can reacquaint ourselves with the deeper lying musculature of our being, the more we'll feel reconnected to self. It starts at those deeper layers, not the superficial layers. Okay. So again, getting comfortable on your back, whether your legs are long or your knees are bent. Feel free to support your lower back if your legs are long, sliding a blanket, pillows underneath your knees, your thighs. One hand to the belly, one hand at the heart. Exhale everything out. Again, inhaling top to bottom. Exhaling bottom to top. Inhaling top to bottom. Exhale bottom to top. Inhaling. You exhale, feel the ribs draw in towards your midline. About 3 more on your own. And feel free to let any effort cease. If you have the time and space, allow yourself to stay here a little bit longer in Shavasana.